You feel like walking down the memory lane, aching for a real nostalgia trip that will resonate with you the same way Baldur's Gate or Icewind Dale used to? Think you might actually go nuts if you don't immediately assemble a team of flamboyant rascals who punish wrongdoing with sword and magic, swipe through dungeons and hunt dragons like anything? Trouble yourself no more. Pillars of Eternity 2 Deadfire is exactly the game you've been looking for. Now you might be thinking, what the heck is this guy talking about? Indeed, if you take a look at the game's promo materials, the sea, the ship, and some tropical islands, you might ask yourself a question along the lines of, how exactly does this hark back to Baldur's Gate? Is this really an RPG, not some pirate simulator? Isn't this more like Sea of Thieves? Worry not. While the new pillars do use nautical motifs a lot, about half of the game takes place on the sea and the ship is the main means of transportation, which requires some attention and maintenance, Deadfire is a true roleplay of the purest breed. The focal point of the game is always the team, the hero you create and their 4 companions, which undertakes different tasks and quests contracted by NPCs in towns and taverns, and then penetrates the most dangerous regions of their world to vanquish the evil and thus become more powerful, by collecting experience points, developing skills, and obtaining better gear. Running the ship is merely an addition to genuine and classic RPG mechanics, not an addition to be forgotten though, as you won't make it far without making sure you have the crew and supplies. Besides this, Pillars of Eternity 2 isn't a sandbox in the contemporary understanding. The underpinning of the game is an engaging, deep, and complex storyline. I guess I should warn you about one thing now. If you haven't had a chance to finish the prequel to this game, you definitely should catch up with that one. Otherwise, the second installment in the series might have you rather confused, mostly because of the game world. Eora is a rich realm that bombarded us in the first game with a vast amount of factions, nations, gods, and creatures. Now, the second part does not only make an extensive use of the already established elements of the setting, but it also adds a lot of new stuff. There's an in-game encyclopedia, but constantly flipping between it and the proper gameplay becomes annoying after a while. The story itself might come across as rather contrived to new players. It picks up many threads from the first game, both the main ones as well as those of lesser importance, and doesn't really bother to explain anything to the players who didn't play or just don't remember the first game. Let's also not forget that Deadfire allows you to use your save game from the original pillars so that the decisions you've made are imported into the sequel. This significantly alters the game world and the characters within it. Let's just say that playing this game without any knowledge of the prequel is largely pointless. What's in it for those who have played the original Pillars of Eternity? The short answer is more of the same thing, but more polished in almost every aspect. I was mostly impressed by the changes in location and quest design. If you're not especially fond of combat, you will be happy for sure to hear that Deadfire very rarely gives you no alternatives to fighting. You can sneak by a monster's lair using an ostensibly inaccessible rock ledge. You can intimidate bandits with unwavering posture and help to conciliate quarreling families using your exquisite elocution and diplomatic skills. You can also eliminate a dangerous pirate by creating an opportunity for his men to get completely drunk with rum and then planting a bomb inside an instrument that he plays. There are endless solutions to every problem. With quests branching out like that, the character development mechanics also needed rethinking. Our heroes get many new skills which they can use outside of combat. Knowledge of history, religion, or metaphysics can be beneficial in almost every conversation and allow you to get something interesting out of a talk with an insignificant NPC. As concerns traditional battle abilities, the most notable change is the double class model introduced in PoE 2. Now there's nothing stopping you from combining traits of a mage and a warrior inside a single character. Some more archaic solutions for Baldur's Gate have also been abandoned, such as the need to rest in order for the used spells to cool down. Beyond that, the combat remains virtually unchanged. It happens in real time and players can use the active pause, which allows more control and lets you give the right orders without superhuman reflexes. Sadly, the pause won't save you from the chaos that breaks out when too many people take part in a fight. The isometric perspective has its advantages, but we definitely could use some 3D camera freedom here. Another issue that comes to my mind are the rather imprecise descriptions of skills. Using certain spells and attacks can feel a bit dodgy since you're never too sure of what's actually going to happen. Another thing is a rather mediocre optimization. The game had a hard time running in 30 to 40 FPS at times on a powerful PC. Also, the system of relations inside a team doesn't always work the way it should. However, all of the above are trifles really when contrasted with the game's strong sides. Pillars of Eternity 2 features some amazing characters, colorful and interesting personas that have their own opinions and are members of different factions, and who are not afraid of influencing the events and defending their opinions, which makes the morality of the protagonist very fluid and dynamic, which is another major upgrade from the original Pillars. To sum up, if you've reached this point of our review, you've most likely finished the first installment in the series by Obsidian, and you definitely consider it to be a nice experience. If so, then there's only one thing that could still discourage you from playing the game, that is, bugs. Unfortunately, the review copy of the game was rather abundant with them, both minor mistakes as well as some pretty pestering glitches. Truth be told, none of these were critical, but waiting for the first patch or two wouldn't hurt. If, however, you're not afraid of bugs, then you should take your wallet and go buy the game right now. You'll be in for a few dozen hours of amazing adventures, pirate brawls, colonial intrigues, swashbuckling, tough moral choices, philosophical questions, and fights of gods. Thank you for listening, and if you're buying the game, enjoy.